Up next, it's Benjamin, who's lost all hope with the police. Mr. Butterworth, over to you.
Yes, I have lost faith in the police. Britain's police aren't just useless, they're bigots too. We had a story today that after a series of horrific exposés of sex attacker cops, we had one of two police officers who many would conclude have probably done something racist. Those officers, Jonathan Campbell and Sam Franks, pulled over two athletes and their baby who were black and said that they could smell cannabis in the car and conducted a very intrusive stop and search. Except that video footage later showed that they'd made it up. They didn't have cannabis, they didn't smell of cannabis, there was no reason to search the car, and they've been sacked because of what it was concluded was racist behaviour, racist profiling. Now, good that they've been sacked, but I was shocked when I looked up the scale of officers among Britain's police who were accused of things like being racism. There are currently 1,000 police officers who are either suspended or on limited duties because of allegations. That's 1 in 34. That's insane. Can you imagine a workplace where 1 in 34 people are suspended because they can't do their job or accused of something serious? We've got a real problem when you've got more police officers accused of crimes than arresting people for them. And I think we need to rip up our police service in this country and we need to kick the bigots out. Because too often, these people are getting away with terrible behaviour that nobody else would get away with, and I think the police should be better than that. So it's time to sack the bigots. Now, speaking of bigots, Darren, what do you think?
Well, I've got one question for you. If you were a member of His Majesty's Police and you saw someone speed away with blacked-out windows after there had been crime in the area and they refused to stop for a police car, you being the police officer, would you not arrest that person?
I mean, it all depends on the circumstances.
Would you not arrest that person?
Benjamin probably...
Well, you can't just arrest someone for
driving away
off.
from a police car. Yes, you can.
No, of course you can't arrest someone for driving away from a police officer.
You absolutely can. If you do not obey the instruction of an officer of the law, you are breaking the law.
Look, I think there are a lot of police in this country who are behaving in a way that's unacceptable. You had the Louise Casey report, right, that looked into what these problems were, and she found that they were institutionally racist, sexist and homophobic, and found endless examples. And I can't stand hard-right people like you who will go, oh, it's just woke nonsense, stop moaning about it. Actually, when police are pursuing people because of their own prejudices, they're not following serious crimes.
Look, I think ultimately what's going to happen in this country if people like Benjamin get their own way is that the police will be so paralysed with fear out of being accused of things like racism, out of being accused of homophobia, transphobia, every watchword that Benjamin has just mentioned, that they won't arrest people. Woke Britain is going to be a woke joke thanks to people like Benjamin.
Emily, lots of these stories, some of them horrific, involving the behaviour of officers with women. How do you feel about the Met Police? Do you feel safe? If you were alone at night, would you go to an officer?
Yes, absolutely, I would go to an officer. Whether he would actually help me or manage to do anything, I don't know. Police officers have helped me in the past and they were very nice. Others have been useless when it comes to crimes like robbery and such things. I think it's difficult. Reports have shown that there are institutional biases or examples of racism, examples of sexism, misogyny, whatever, right? I have a problem, actually, separate from that, with a lot of police being far too soft touch when it comes to policing. If you take the recent protests on our streets, I don't think they came down hard enough on those who were chanting things like jihad. They've ignored today. I saw the police ignore people throwing those smoke bomb things and climbing up traffic lights. They were just standing and watching. I thought, and perhaps I'm wrong, I thought that was a crime to do that, but perhaps not when it comes to a protest. I think that the police, I think Darren's right, that the police are worried about the fact that they're always caught on camera. Social media is really disrupting the way that police can actually do their jobs. If you've got cameras in your face while you're trying to arrest someone who you think has committed a crime or seen commit a crime, and you're worried about, you know, being accused of whatnot because the perpetrator happens to be black or Asian or a woman, then they can't really do their job very well. So I think
maybe they should stop being racist, and it might solve the problem. This case that I outlined,
be accusations, though, can't there?
This case, these officers have been sacked because it was determined the only reason they made up a smell of cannabis was clearly because they were black.
I'm talking more broadly about how the police are in a very difficult situation, and I think a lot of them perhaps are underqualified.
They're
for the
also
job that they're
widely
doing.
disrespected in this country.
Yeah,
I can't think of any police force across Europe where our police are, in comparison, such a walking, talking joke. If they're not doing the Macarena at Pride or painting their cars in rainbow flags or having National Pronoun Day, they're, as Emily said, going to protest today, letting calls for jihad run riot in the street, and yet we've got the wokest police force in Europe.
Oh, what?
And also the most
institutionally racist, sexist, and homophobic. I'd rather them doing the Macarena than the kind of behaviour you see from people like Wayne Couzens. At least then they're engaging with the communities they're meant to make feel safe.
You talk about 1,000 officers being investigated. Is that what you said?
Yeah, suspended.
How many coppers are there in the UK?
Well, this was in the Met, and that was 34,000, of which 1,000 are on limited duties or suspended. Well,
look, I'm pro-police. I think, in actual fact, we need to respect our police more, but they need to earn that respect by doing their jobs properly.
But you can't seriously think they're too woke when you see endless examples
hang on.
of this kind of unacceptable behaviour.
The case that Benjamin is actually talking about, I think it's quite important that you give your opinion on that particular case. They were doing 32 miles per hour in a 20 miles per hour zone. That is illegal. Should the police, do the police have a right
of course they should.
To arrest them?
We don't live in San Francisco.
This is a ridiculous hill to die on. They've sacked the officers, for God's sake.
They've sacked the officers, yes. And actually, I think this is going to have a chilling effect on crimes like the one that was committed against you, being actually the police doing something about it, because they're too afraid of being accused of racist by people like you.
It is absolutely necessary for our safety, our security, that we trust the police and that the police also feel empowered to enforce the law. We need them to enforce the law, otherwise we'll all be victims of many, many more crimes. That does not excuse racist cases where the police have gone overboard and have acted in a nasty, racist, whatever way, or sexist way. Of course not. And there will be bad apples within the police. But I think fundamentally they probably are too soft touch in some instances.
Lewis, would you back a national inquiry into overhauling the police, not just the bigotry that Benjamin talks about, but also, from my point of view, the wokeness and the complete lack of respect that people have got for them?
Well, no, I think that the dealing with the racism stuff is probably more important than the wokeness stuff, because the reason the police are making an effort to be seen to be embracing the LGBT community is because for so long they were after us. So, there's a reason these things are being done. I obviously agree with Benjamin about, the bad behaviour, but I do think it is bad apples. But I think that, we're talking about police officers here. We probably need to be talking about the management. How are these people not being vetted out? How are they not being caught? And I guess on the flip of that as well is, like, who would want to be a police officer in the modern Britain?
Well, they fence a lot of good people off because they now require degrees to become PCs, and that just...
I don't understand.
Can I just quickly sort of draw attention to another point that I was really trying to make, which was that when you get people who've been found to have done misconduct, police officers, so rarely are they actually sacked. You had Stephen Port, a guy that raped and killed 4 gay men, and it was concluded that the 4th murder could have been stopped had police paid more attention. There were 9 officers disciplined. All of them had been promoted in the years since it happened.
Is terrible,
that's an institutional problem.
We do see this in all sorts of institutions and organisations and.
But I think we should expect better of the police.
Yeah, we absolutely should.
Stuff.
Let us know what you think at home. Do you agree with Benjamin Butterworth that the police are institutionally racist and bigots, and it all needs to be shaken up entirely, or do you think perhaps they need to be a bit tougher?